AVC, thanks for stopping by my channel. We're going to talk about Elvis. We're going to talk about his records. I'm going to talk about some of his books I have, some of the films that I suggest. If you don't know a lot about Elvis, there's a lot of young people who are just getting into Elvis after the movie of maybe it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'm not sure, with Austin Butler. But we're going to talk a little bit about Elvis. And this record came out in June of 77. Now, you all know June of 77 significance. And you all know, well, you know 1977 significance, but this came out in June, and it sold millions. This is an original with blue vinyl, since we're a VC channel. Blue vinyl. This had Moody Blue, Unchained Melody, which a lot of these things were recorded on tour. And the record, I don't believe was selling too well initially, but then, you know, something happened in August, and it just exploded through the roof, basically. So, but in 77, if you were born between 65 and 80, you're considered Generation X, which is, I didn't know that, but that's Generation X. In 77, gas was about 55 cents a gallon for regular. Records were $4, $5 each. You could buy 8 or 9 records for $40. Cutouts were prominent. You can get chest cutouts, you get Apple cutouts, you get Polydor cutouts, RSO cutouts. And a cutout is a record that maybe they overstocked, the distributor overstocked, or the company sold more to the distributor than that would actually sell. So they would make a deal and they would snip it or drill it so that it could not be returned back to the manufacturer. So those were called cutouts. And we were getting cutouts for $1.50, $1.99, and I'll talk about no Elvis cutouts. Elvis cutouts were not, Elvis always sold, so not a lot of Elvis cutouts. But to talk about, you know, where I was that day on August 17th, 1977. But we're going to talk a little bit first about what happened in 77. Now, Song of the Year was Best of My Love, The Emotions. Tom Brady was born in August. Kanye West was born in June. Roots debuted the TV miniseries on ABC in January. Debbie Boone had a #1 song, You Light Up My Life, Pat Boone's daughter. So that's genetics there, right? Apple Computers shipped Apple II computer. Rumors was out. Multi-million selling record, probably, I don't know, 25 million copies or more now. God Save the Queen by Sex Pistols. So you could see music was changing. You know, this album that I just showed, Moody Blue, that was more for your, wasn't more for people, teens and people in their 30s and 40s. That was kind of, Elvis was singing songs that maybe Engelbert Humperdinck would sing, or Perry Como, or he did have the Elvis though. It did have Elvis, but it wasn't mainstream. So like I said, that record really didn't explode, you know, like his early stuff, which I'm going to show. I'm going to suggest some records if you don't know a lot about Elvis. You know, there's a lot of new people that just start getting into Elvis based on the movie of a few years with Austin Butler, maybe a year or 2 years ago. Don't remember. But this is the hard part. I remember where I was. I'm going to talk about that. But that was 46 years, 11 months, and about 30 days ago. That was August 17th, 1977. It was a Wednesday. Elvis died around the time I'm recording this, between 11:30, 10:30 to 2-ish. I think around 2 o'clock they discovered his body upstairs in an area near his bedroom. His girlfriend was with him. I think she called Esposito, who was in his entourage, long friend, lifetime friend. Esposito went up. Elvis was slumped over. He was reading a religious book at the time. And they tried to revive him, called the ambulance. When they called the ambulance, they didn't mention it was Elvis. They didn't want to start that frenzy that Elvis was down. So the ambulance came, tried to revive him. Couldn't do much, obviously. Elvis was maybe gone already. But went to the Baptist Memorial Hospital, I think, in Memphis. And at that point, at 3 o'clock, he was pronounced dead. Word leaked out, and all hell broke loose. Thousands of people in the area rushed to Graceland. Hundreds of people got in their cars going to Graceland. Actually, planes, though, you couldn't get a ticket out of Memphis or into Memphis or or Vegas. Everything was tied up. You couldn't make a phone call. Late afternoon on August 18th in Memphis by Graceland, which is Elvis's home, Graceland, because the lines were all tied up. Jim Burton says they were on a plane, I believe from Vegas, some of the band members, because Elvis was set to tour the next day, start his tour, and was starting in Portland. So the band gets there first. Elvis comes later, I guess, in a private jet. So they were told, the pilots got a call, turn around, come back to Vegas. Nobody knew why. The pilots just said, we have to turn back, but we have to stop for gas, for fuel, jet fuel. And regular gas was only 50 cents, 60 cents a gallon in 1977, so who knows what jet fuel was. But anyway, they turned back. No one knew. Everyone said, I wonder what went wrong, what happened. It could have been anything. Tours get canceled, dates get canceled. Anyway, they get back to the first airport to refuel, and Jim Burton, who wants to stretch his legs, a guitar player, was also a guitar player for Nelson. And anyway, he bumped into someone and said, there was a death at Graceland. And he immediately thought it was Vernon Presley. Vernon was older. Vernon had heart conditions. Elvis's mother died of a heart condition at age 46. And Vernon died after Elvis, but he was only 62. So Jim initially thought it was Vernon, but they found out, no, it's not Vernon, it's Elvis. Elvis is dead. No, you're joking. No, it wasn't a joke. And he flew back to Vegas, tried to get a plane back to Memphis, couldn't do it. Said he called up 10, 12 airlines. Finally got through to someone he knew at American Airlines, and she knew Burton, obviously, famous musician with Elvis. She said, well, beyond that, we could get you a ride tomorrow at 11, so he was able to get back. But everyone else jammed the gates of Graceland, thousands of people. They said during the procession of the funeral procession a few days later, or a week later, they're saying there may have been 80,000 people lining the streets. There was 16 coaches long, white limo Cadillacs. So, it's just a sad day. The reports indicated death by a heart attack, coronary, and like I said later on, they found other, they found other things that, we knew Elvis was abusing himself. He wasn't taking care of himself. He was being pushed. But people just swarmed into that area. And there was a time when maybe the next day or the day after, 17th or 18th or 19th, they opened up the gates because Elvis's casket, which was one of the most expensive caskets ever made, they said it weighed, hundreds of pounds. I forget, but it was the most expensive casket that was flown in, bronze or whatever. And Elvis was laid in his home in Graceland, and they actually let people come through until it got out of hand, and they just stopped it. Funny point is, when Elvis was originally buried in a cemetery, I guess where his mother was buried, and later he was moved to Graceland. There's a big memorial if you've ever been there, and they moved Elvis's body back. But he was at a cemetery, and the cemetery director said there had to be 30,000, 40,000 people came through those gates. The line was backed up a few miles, and he said every flower, every ribbon, every flower stand of styrofoam or cardboard or plastic was taken. So whatever the fans gave back to Elvis in memorial, they took it back. They said there was over 3,000 flower arrangements that they took from Graceland to the cemetery, and they were all picked off by fans, and I'm sure some of the fans still have that stuff in their Elvis collections. I know I would have kept it if I was I'm a collector. So Lisa Marie was there at the time he passed away. She was very young. What was she? 9 or 10 maybe? 9. And she was with her friend, and they didn't tell her right away. They just told her that your daddy's sick, because she was there for the summer. She was going to go back to California where Priscilla lived. They were separated at the time. Not sure if they were divorced. I think the divorce was pending. So Elvis people would know. I forget a lot of Elvis stuff. So just a sad, sad day. And I'm sure Lisa Marie Presley, rest in peace, never forgot that. And she was so young at the time. But that's not... You're constantly remembered that. On August 18th, 2 girls, fans of Elvis, were killed by a out-of-control drunk driver. One girl was seriously injured, had brain damage, but that was a tragic because of the mayhem that happened at that time. So they're saying a lot of things killed Elvis, but a lot of pure Elvis fans at the time blamed this book, Elvis, What Happened. This book was written by Red West, Sonny West, Dave Hebler, as told by Steve Dunleavy. And this is a tell-all book about Elvis's downward slide. And a lot of things were in there that the fans still don't believe. It's kind of a tell-all, warts and all book. And the funny thing was, it came out a couple of weeks before Elvis died. And Elvis was very concerned about this book was going to ruin his reputation. It's a very hard book to find. If you go on eBay, it's still a $30, $40 book. I believe this is the first edition paperback. But legend has it that it sold like 12 to 25 million copies, especially after Elvis passed away. Everyone pointed to this book, Elvis, What Happened? And I always thought this book was released after Elvis died, but this book was released before Elvis died, and a lot of it had to do with Elvis's abuse of drugs, not taking care of himself, stuff about the Colonel, I guess, stuff about his girlfriends, his running around. So Elvis was very concerned. They said that the night before he passed away, Elvis liked to pray, and he would gather his friends and maybe his girlfriend, some people in the house. And he said Elvis prayed that people would kind of not believe everything in this book, and that he would be strong to get past what was written in this book, because, Elvis kept a pretty private life. He was pretty clean. There was really no scandals that were let out. So this is the book. If you get this book, you'll see what I mean. Another fun fact is the last movie that Elvis saw on a Monday, August 12th, was The Spy Who Loved Me. Roger Moore with Barbara Bach. Barbara Bach became Mrs. Ringo Starr. But we're going to get into some records that if you're new to Elvis, or you just, like I said, learned about Elvis, because of the movie, I'm going to just point out some quick 6 or 7 records that I have. Most of these are early Elvis, which I think was real Elvis. When John Lennon was asked what killed Elvis, and he would always say, the Army killed Elvis. Because after Elvis, was inducted into the Army, drafted into the Army in Germany. When he came out, he did do a great record, which I didn't pull, called Elvis Is Back, my favorite Elvis albums, with The Fever and, Such a Night, just great stuff. The whole band was there. But I think that was it. And then later on, he started making those movies. And, for me, I don't mind the movies. I think we're lucky, because in those movies, we got glimpses of the greatness. In every movie, Elvis did songs, backed by sometimes the original band with Scotty Moore, and then later on, other session people. But we got to see Elvis in his prime up into '67, and he did the '68 special, the Christmas special, which is known now as the comeback special. But I just want to go through some other things and some other facts I learned, that when all those people came through the gates to see Elvis's body, there was, of course, friends and family. And they said that the body was in a room in the casket. And they said that Anne Margaret came. I was in love with Elvis. I met Anne Margaret. And when I talked about Elvis, she kind of, and this was only 5 years ago, there was a sadness there, a real love, and it resonated with me. So I just left it, and we talked, briefly, but it was at a convention. I didn't meet her at a cocktail party, but they said that she spent 3 or 4 hours or more in that casket room, and so did James Brown, who was a big friend, a friend of Elvis, a fan of Elvis. Elvis was a fan of James Brown. I don't think they ever collaborated, or there's probably not a lot of photos of them together, but he was in that room 4 or 5 hours, they said, with Elvis's body. So, pretty amazing stuff. 2 girls were killed that day outside on the 18th. And then later on, like I said, there was just 80,000 people lined in the streets to the cemetery. Probably 10, 15,000 people on Elvis Presley Boulevard, whatever could fit, And that was over 46 years ago today. I still remember where I was, and I'm going to ask you if you could comment in your comments. I appreciate the subs. I appreciate everyone watching this. This is a serious subject for me. And I want to thank a friend of mine who I was talking to. His wife reminded me the other day that this was going to be the anniversary of Elvis's death, and it's Elvis Week in Memphis. And I have a good friend of mine got me the light, that big Elvis fan that is down there for Elvis Week, probably for the 20th time. Elvis is going to be 90 in January. Okay, so there's going to be another celebration for Elvis's 90th birthday. So he died he was age 42. Like I said it before, I think I said before, maybe it was a rehearsal take, we don't know. But his mother was 46 when she passed away, and that was while Elvis was in the Army, maybe 1960. And then later on, a few years after Elvis died, at 62, Vernon died. And then Lisa Marie was the sole heir of Elvis's enterprise and his legacy. And sad to say, and behind me is a photo, a prized photo of mine that I met Lisa Marie, I met Priscilla, Lisa Marie's mom. And Lisa Marie was still alive at the time, and she signed that photo to me. And that's a great photo. It's a great shot. Elvis's daughter was born, legend has it, and it's kind of documented, 9 months to the day of their marriage in '68. She was born in '69. 9 months to the day. So, but I'm going to go over some quick books. It's a good book if you don't know anything about the King. There's some good stuff in here. I actually marked some stuff to read, but I don't know if I'll do this. This book is one of the first books that I picked up. This came out soon after Elvis passed away. This is an infamous book by Albert Goldman. Warts and all, there's some good stuff in there. I agree with him on some of the aspects, and I'll talk about that. These two are, though, essential. This is Peter Gurlinik. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He did liner notes for a few Elvis box sets that I have that I showed a few weeks ago. But this one here and this one, companion book, are essential if you want to know about Elvis. And a couple books I have up here written by friends and family of Elvis. So, Last Train to Memphis, The Rise of Elvis Presley, Part 1, and The Unmaking of Elvis Presley, Careless Love. And look at that great shot. And there he is on that. So this has nice photos. It's a scholarly book. It's not, Peter is an amazing writer. And like I said, he did liner notes. I think he may have won a Grammy for liner notes. As far as movies go, this one is essential. This is Elvis. This is the DVD. This is 1981. And then 1983, they expanded it, called the unrated version. I don't know. Was Elvis in the nude? I don't know. But essential. One of my favorite miniseries is Jonathan Rhys Meyers' portrayal of Elvis, essential. And also, which I didn't pull, but the one that, I forget his name now, he was in with Elvis at, it happened at the World's Fair. It'll come to me, but you all know, married to Goldie Hawn's partner. So, and I just pulled this, Shrink, the last movie Elvis saw on the Monday, August 12th at the, I have the theater here, Southbrook 4 Theater in Memphis. Friday, August 12th, 77, Lisa and her friends. And if I didn't say it already, I wanted to point out that the day Elvis died was a Wednesday. So August 17th, 1977 fell on a Wednesday. And I was in college. I was working at a record store, Vogel's Records in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And like I said, the Elvis records weren't selling, once in a while. You get people coming. But we always kept Elvis in stock. Moody Blue came out, wasn't really a big seller. But then, I guess late that night, we were probably open till 6 on a Wednesday. But late that night, well, we knew that Elvis passed away. That's where I was with my buddies. I'm still friends with a lot of the people from Vogel's. And unfortunately, one of the owners, a good friend of mine, Jay, passed away a few years ago. I miss him. And his brother, Cy, his partner, passed away before him after a long illness. And we had Sam, we had Irene, Cy's wife, the kids. It was a family atmosphere. And I love that. I love them. I love that job. But when Elvis died, that night, that afternoon, people started coming in buying Elvis. And I think we were sold out by the next day, perhaps on Thursday. And we couldn't get Elvis records for a while. Like I don't know what we had in stock, but they were gone. They weren't on sale. Maybe Moody Blues was on sale, but everything else was a regular price, which was, $6, $7 at that time. It's $5, $6 for a not record on sale. And we sold out. We couldn't get anything. Distributors were sold out. And I'm going online doing some research about the day the music died, August 1777. And on YouTube, there's a few videos of record stores that were completely sold out. One record store salesman like myself at the time said that lady came in here, bought 7 Elvis records, and the newscaster said, well, how much was that? He said, I think it was about $40. Another person in another store bought out whatever was there in the store, whatever was left. She just scooped them up. And how much did she spend? And the salesman said, oh, she spent over $300. $300 back in 77 is about $1,000 today, more than $1,000. So great performance. by Jonathan Mayers. Great documentary, the first one. This documentary was organized a lot by the Colonel, I believe. So Colonel made a lot of money off of that. But I'm just going to suggest for some records, if you don't have them, just to show off some of my original Elvis and some newer Elvis and some soundtracks and stuff. But it was a sad day. I remember where I was. Again, if you remember where you were, please comment if you like this video. I have a video in my archives that I'll try to link that I showed probably about an hour worth of Elvis records that I've collected through the years, and tapes and 8-tracks and stuff. So here's one. This is not an OG, this is a later pressing. This is an OG, GI Blues. See that? Great song. One of my favorites. Put this here. One of my favorites, Wooden Heart. Classic. Billion people watch this on TV via satellite. When no one knew what a satellite was, we thought satellites were, us and the Russians had satellites for, to dominate space. But Elvis used it to transmit from Hawaii to billions of people. This is a gatefold double with all the countries. This was also a quad record. I have this in quad as well. Elvis's Gospel. You got to get Elvis's gospel stuff. His only Grammy, I believe, was a gospel OG. And really nice. All these OGs are VP++. This is a cool one. Elvis Speaks. It's funny, I was doing my research and my wife saw a photo of Elvis in a gold suit, and she said, oh, that's Bye Bye Birdie. He must have took that from Bye Bye Birdie. And I think Aunt Margaret was in Bye Bye Birdie too, I'm not sure. But great movie, great, based on Elvis. I said, no, Elvis had that suit. Elvis wore this suit first. They copied, that was about Elvis. Bye Bye Birdie was after this. There's the label. Okay, it happened at the World's Fair. Okay, let me see here. Just great. So we're lucky to have these soundtracks, even though Elvis may have not sung everyone rock and roll, what we all love, what John Lennon and Paul wanted, what Ringo, what George wanted, what, anybody who was a rocker. But we got the clips of Elvis. So we should be thankful that they're all documented. They're all in 4K, Blu-ray. Here's the inner for this. Look at that. Look at that. Sold more records at one time than the Beatles and Sinatra combined. So here's another. This is a mono. That's what I just showed. Happened at the World's Fair. I've got these through various venues, record fairs. Lucky enough, at yard sales, people gave them to me. Elvis Golden Records OG. Now, some of these are first pressings. I'm not sure which ones. I'm not a fanatic about trying to get the dead wax, but I believe some of the ones I'm going to show next are first pressings or second first pressings. I'm not sure, but they're pretty rarefied. Great one, The Clash. Copied this in, I believe, London Calling album. If you don't know that, check out London Calling. Here's the record. See that? Here's another one, OG. These are essential. These are all available. Repress. That's a mono, Loving You. You know, we got great records initially out of the soundtracks. And then later on, you know, they were making them in a couple weeks. They were making money. Elvis's movies always made money. He was living high on the hog. Unfortunately, that lifestyle of maybe taking substances to get up and down, couldn't sleep, it kind of, you know, ended his life too early. So we know that now. This one is sealed. If you don't have any Elvis, these are mono. This is his Golden Award hits, parts 1 and 2. There's the records there. There's also a B-side of this. I've also have the box set, which is the A and B side, but this is still sealed. This is for me, my favorite documentary. There's been a lot, but they kind of copy this formula. This is Elvis. I know I have the movie somewhere, the DVD, but this is Elvis, 1981. So I'm not sure if it's connected to the other one, but right there, gatefold. And we have Elvis in pointillism. You get close, the dots, but this has Christmas songs on it, stuff from Madison Square Garden, My Way, American Trilogy, an incredible sounding version. His excerpt of Hy Gardner's interview over the phone, Shake, Rattle, and Roll from Dorsey TV show, Heartbreak Hotel from Dorsey, Hound Dog from Milton Berle. That's when Elvis embarrassed himself and sang to a dog in a tuxedo, which at the time, I guess, got a lot of ratings. But excerpts from his press conferences in Germany. So if you don't know a lot about early Elvis, you want to see the clips in pristine, pick up this DVD or Blu-ray. And then I wanted to show this. If you don't have this, you should definitely pick it up. Elvis in Memphis, the one step. I waited a long time for this. This is a number 000292 at 10,000. So I'll show you the original. You know, these one steps are great. Mobile fidelity. Just sounds like Elvis is in the room. And speaking of Elvis is in the room, his Elvis Presley, I believe it's FTD albums that have come out through Elvis Enterprises, they sound like Elvis is in the room. They're very hard to find. They sell out. They become very expensive. But I have a few of those, and those are just amazing. Here's the original album cover. And here you have a great Elvis 60s, which I believe this photo predated when these were done. This also comes with the 8x10 that was included. We have Elvis's facsimile signature. So I hope you enjoyed this little segment, my little memory of Elvis. I remember where I was. You know, it's funny. I remember where I was for Elvis. I remember where I was for Kennedy. I remember where I was for John Lennon. I don't remember where I was for certain people, like when Michael Jackson died, I was shocked. I don't remember where Prince died, but I was shocked. I remember where I was when Martin Luther King was shot. I don't remember where I was when Bobby Kennedy was shot. I was probably still in shock from Martin Luther King. But it's funny how we're talking about this guy almost 50 years since his death. He's going to be 90 in January. And there's Elvis Week every year at Memphis, at Graceland. There's been albums about Graceland, and notably Paul Simon Graceland. One of my favorite tributes to Elvis is Phil Lenox's solo album, the night the king died, or the king call, the king's call, I just get the chills. It's just off the charts good. Just so well, full of Thin Lizzy. Graceland, of course, the title track. Walking in Memphis. So many that are a tribute to what people call the king of rock and roll. Now, I have detractors friends of mine that are older than me, maybe some of them my age, but one stands out. He doesn't think Elvis is the king of rock and roll. But Elvis didn't think he was the king of rock and roll. Elvis said there was only one king, and that's Jesus Christ up in heaven. That's what he said. He said, I'm not the king. But that was Elvis did so much for rock. He did a lot for bringing out the blues and bringing African American music to the main front. He sung songs that were originated by Chuck Berry and Little Richard. They all loved Elvis. James Brown loved Elvis. All walks of life. If you see these movies, you see interviews of people from all walks of life. People crying. People saying that people who were interviewed at Graceland on the 18th and maybe the 17th in the afternoon, but he wasn't just a performer. It was a way of life. At that point, when Elvis died, I had moved away from my Elvis love. I had his records, but I never got to see him because of that. I was old enough to go see him and thought he was always going to be around. Just like I never saw James Brown, never saw Muddy Waters. I regret that. I got to see Sinatra a few times, never saw Dean Martin. Got to see a lot of great people that are not here, but didn't see Elvis, didn't see Muddy Waters. Those are people I wish I had seen. So, just a tough day. I'm thinking about this a lot. He's going to be 90. Should have never happened. Elvis should have lived to be 90. Who knows? He never lost his voice. On that Moody Blue album, he does Unchained Melody, and it's an amazing tune. I think that was one of the last things he did in concert, him at the piano. The clips of him that you don't see too often because he's kind of heavy and the estate kind of pulled those, but he never lost his voice. The voice was there. The graciousness, the goodness would help you out. Didn't brag about it. That's why they said that book, Elvis: What Happened by the Wests, really hurt Elvis, and it could have been a factor. I'm sure it was a factor. And if you haven't read it, if you want to read all the warts, and it's in other books now, but that's my little spiel. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoy this little segment. But today, 46 years ago plus, the king of rock and roll, they say, Elvis Presley died at age 42. And his wife is Priscilla, still living. She's still doing stuff. There's so much stuff on Elvis on YouTube, on marathons. There'll probably be marathons this week because of his death, or hopefully for his birthday. But great sounding album. And the OGs always sound good. The OGs, Bill Porter, I believe, was engineer. And thanks Tony Gale telling me to follow that engineer. All the Memphis people, just well done. And he would come in there and knock it off. He would knock that song out. Couldn't read music, but he played guitar, I guess above average. But everything else was universe average, above average. Unique, one of a kind. They'll never be. Good looking, had a photographic memory, would know the script in his early movies, would know everyone's part in King Creole, in his early movies. Loving You, knew all the parts. So hope you like this. Please keep in touch. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please let me know what you think, and I'll leave it at that because I could go on for hours talking about my what I know about Elvis and what I just feel about Elvis. So there you go. Take care. Ciao.